Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. If you don't like the process of taking screenshots on your Mac, here are 10 variations that may work better for you. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So to take a screenshot on your Mac, you may be used to using the default keyboard shortcut Shift-Command-3. And that takes a screenshot of your Mac, gives you a floating thumbnail at the bottom right. You can click on that to mark it up or just wait and it will appear on your desktop as a file. But perhaps that's not the best workflow for you. There are a lot of different variations. You just need to know where to go to find screenshot settings and then some different shortcuts and commands to use while taking a screenshot. So first let's go into System Settings and then go down to Keyboard. And then go to Keyboard Shortcuts. Now there's a section here just for screenshots. Now you're going to see 5 different shortcuts here. Maybe more if you've got a Mac with a touch bar. And there at the top is the default Save Picture of the Screen as a File Shift-Command-3. But then there's some other variations as well that we're going to look at. But the one we're going to start with is the last one, Screenshot and Recording Options. This is the one keyboard shortcut to rule them all. It doesn't just allow you to set the options, but you can actually use this to take screenshots. So if you rarely do screenshots and you want to have all the options available when you do, then Shift-Command-5 is the one you want to use. But first we're going to use it to access the settings. Shift-Command-5 brings up the special screenshot control at the bottom. And then you've got the Options button right here. If you click that, this is where you can highly customize how screenshots are taken. And the first thing we're going to do is get rid of that floating thumbnail. If you don't ever use it, it just takes up some time while it shows you that thumbnail, waits for you to click on it. If you'd rather have it just save the file immediately, you can just uncheck it right there. So now you can see I don't have it selected anymore. Now the next time I use Shift-Command-3, it immediately takes the screenshot and puts it on my desktop. But even if you're not a fan of that floating thumbnail, you may want to give it a second look. Let's turn it back on here and see what happens when we capture the screen. If I click on it, it brings up a preview of the screenshot. Now this may seem like a waste of time since if you dismiss it with the X button here at the top left or just click Done, then it just saves it to the desktop anyway. But you also have this trash can button here. If you click that, then it doesn't do anything. So this gives you a chance to check out the screenshot before you save it. So instead of taking a screenshot, then having to open up the file, check it out, see that maybe you didn't get it quite right, deleting that file and trying again, you could just do it this way, click here, and if you don't like it, click the trash can, and now you're ready to try again. No file was ever saved. Plus, of course, you also get the ability to mark up the screenshot. You get the ability to share it directly from here so you can decide instead of saving it that you want to send it, say, in a message or in an email. And you even get the ability here at the bottom right to select text that's found in the screenshot. So for instance, if you take a screenshot of this and you use the floating thumbnail, then you can select the text, Command-C to copy, and then throw away the screenshot. And then you can paste the text into a document. Now a request I often hear is to not have the screenshots saved to the desktop. And you can actually save them anywhere. Shift-Command-5 and under Options you can see you can have them saved to the desktop or Documents, but you can also choose any other location. So I could go, say, to my home folder here. I can maybe go into Pictures, maybe create a new folder there called Screenshots, and then choose that. So now when I capture a screenshot, it'll be saved into that folder instead of the desktop. Now another thing people want to do is have the screenshot saved to a different location each time. And there doesn't seem to be an obvious way to do this. But if you look at the options here, one of them is to save to preview. What that actually does is open up the screenshot in preview. So it's a new document that hasn't been saved yet. So now when I take a screenshot, it opens up in preview and all I need to do now is a quick Command S and I can save it with any name I want and any location I want. I can even change the format and the quality of the JPEG. Or before I save it, I can use the markup tools inside Preview if I like. So it works a lot like the floating thumbnail, but you can save it with any name and any location. Now another thing you may want to do is always copy to the clipboard instead of saving as a file, opening a preview, or doing anything else. If you go into System Settings and then back here to Keyboard Shortcuts, Screenshots, you can see that you can copy a picture of the screen to the clipboard by adding the Control key to the keyboard shortcut. So there's already a keyboard shortcut to do this. But in addition to that, if you use Shift-Command-5 and then Options, you can set Clipboard as the default location. So now it'll save to Clipboard whether you use Shift-Command-3 or Control-Shift-Command-3. In addition to that, if you have the floating thumbnail turned on and you have it set to capture to, say, a folder, you can capture, go to the floating thumbnail, and right here at this point you can do Command-C to copy. And then you could toss this. Now you could just paste the screenshot somewhere else into any app you want. Another thing I like to do is use Shift-Command-5 and then switch to the Capture Selected portion. And now I can move this around to an area that I want to capture. But instead of hitting the Capture button there, I can just do Command-C. And that will copy it to the clipboard instead of whatever the default save location is. Note this may seem like the same thing as Shift-Command-4, capture a picture of the selected area as a file, or Control-Shift-Command-4, copy that to the clipboard. But when you use this, it's going to ask you for an area and immediately grab it like that. And that's what you're stuck with. But using Shift-Command-5 and then this option here, Capture Selected Portion, allows you to move the area around, adjust the corners and the edges. It'll even remember the last selection as well, as long as you have Remember Last Selection turned on. I find this is a much better way to capture an exact portion of the screen than using the regular keyboard shortcut. Another option that you can set is a timer. You can set a timer, say, for 5 or 10 seconds. The advantage of doing that is sometimes you can get a screenshot you can't get otherwise while you're issuing the keyboard shortcut. For instance, you can capture the menus up here. So now that I've selected that, I can use the capture button here or just click on the screen to capture the screen. It's going to count down and I could, say, bring up a menu like this and it will grab that menu as part of the screenshot. There are other apps that also have difficult to grab sections that you can't grab just when you hit Shift-Command-3. You need to be doing something else other than that keyboard shortcut to get it to look just right. Now this next idea may seem a little strange to a lot of people. I know it did to me at first. But when you capture a screenshot on an iPhone or iPad, where does it go? It goes into your Photos app. But on the Mac it doesn't. It's saved as a file. Now I prefer the Mac way of doing things. I wish there was a way on the iPhone and iPad to have it save as a file instead of going to the Photos app. But there are some people that like that method and want to do it on the Mac as well. There's no setting to save the screenshot to the Photos app. But you can choose other location and select a folder like we selected the Screenshots folder. Let's create yet another folder here and call this Screenshots to Photos and set it as the default location. Now we're going to run Automator. Automator has largely been replaced by Shortcuts today on Macs, but it still does some things that Shortcuts does not. And one of those is to create a folder action. So we're going to create a folder action here and then we're going to choose the folder right here and choose that folder that we just created, Screenshots to Photos. And then we're going to just put one action in here. We're going to look in the Photos category here and there's one called Import Files into Photos. We'll drag that over here to add it. You can import without adding to an album or add to an existing top level album. And then we're going to save and we'll call this Screenshots to Photos. And now this will run automatically anytime anything goes into Screenshots to Photos. And since we have screenshots set to go here by default, this should make new screenshots go into the Photos app. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this screen right here. There's the floating thumbnail. We can take a look at it. It looks fine. Done. It goes into the folder like that. And you can see the folder action triggers automatically. You can see the first time it runs it's actually going to ask for permission. We'll give it permission and it's run. So now if we look in the Photos app and we look at our most recent photo, sure enough, there it is. So I hope you found these techniques useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.